skiing. On a winter day, Iris the ice beetle invited all her friends to go skiing. "Has everyone got skis?" she asked. "I haven't," said Berry. "And I haven't," Leapy the grasshopper girl joined in. "Neither have I," Flutter the butterfly added. "Then let's make some skis for you. It isn't hard," Iris said with a smile. The friends all joined in. They sawed and sanded thin planks of wood, fixed foot straps to them, and made poles for everyone. And the skis were finished by lunchtime. They all walked up the hill together. When they got to the top, they strapped on their skis and put on their ski helmets. Then Iris asked, "Does everyone know how to ski? I can teach anyone who doesn't." They all nodded except for Flutter. The little butterfly girl didn't know how to ski, but she didn't say anything. "It can't be all that hard. I'll soon get the hang of it," she thought to herself. She only dared whisper the truth to the green grub. Berry was the first to go. "Whoopee!" he shouted with a broad grin as he sped down the snowy hillside. Dolly came after Berry, and then Balthazar, and then the others. Flutter was the last one to set off. She took a deep breath and pushed herself off. The only problem was she didn't know how to stop. She carried on skiing over the next hill and then the hill after that until she had skied a very long way away from the others. The little butterfly girl only stopped when she fell over into a big pile of snow. It was a while before the others realised that Flutter was missing. "Flutter doesn't know how to ski," the green grub eventually told them. "She can't ski?" they all asked in surprise. "This was her first time. She was very nervous, but she didn't dare to mention it. Oh, I'm frightened that something terrible has happened to her." The friends set off to search for Flutter. Dr. Owl was flying past and he spotted Flutter in the snow below. "Flutter, what happened to you?" he asked. "I couldn't stop and I fell over in the snow. I really hurt myself. I thought I'd never be able to stop. I don't want to ski again," Flutter sobbed. Dr. Owl felt very sorry for the little butterfly girl, so he put her on his back and took her to his house. "I'll bandage you up and then I'll take you to Iris's house. I'm sure the others will be looking for you," Dr. Owl said in a reassuring voice. The little friends frantically searched around, but they couldn't find Flutter anywhere. They walked sadly back to Iris's house. But Flutter was waiting for them when they arrived. They were overjoyed. "Hooray! Are you all right, Flutter? Tell us what happened to you," Dolly told her. Flutter told them the whole story from beginning to end. "So you don't know how to ski?" Iris asked in surprise. "I'll teach you. You'll soon learn how to turn and stop, and you'll be able to ski down even the steepest hills." "Thank you," the butterfly girl said with a smile. Iris started to teach Flutter to ski the very next morning. By the end of the first day, the little butterfly girl could ski down small hills and stop safely at the bottom. "Look! Flutter can ski! This calls for a celebration!" Stanley shouted, and he started to play a tune on the icicles. The others sang and danced around the happy little butterfly.
Dr. Owl and the Cakes. Summer had arrived in the forest. All the little friends decided to have a picnic to welcome the new season. "Let's have a picnic in the meadow," suggested Balthazar the bee. "Everyone should bake something," added Zephyr the dragonfly. "We should make someone the judge. who can taste all the cakes and decide which one tastes best, Berry suggested. We should ask Dr. Owl, shouted Flutter. The little friends set to work. Dolly made cakes with ladybird spots. Berry, of course, made snail-shaped rolls. Balthazar made lots of stripy bees. Bubble made flower-shaped shortbread. Rosita made strawberry balls with marzipan roses. Flutter made butterfly biscuits. Morris made sweet dumplings. Eddie made caramel cakes. The centipede made long cake slices. Zephyr made fruity balls. Stanley made poppy pies. Frank made chocolate drops. The moon beetle made lemon cookies. Spider made apple bonbons. Iris made coconut snowmen. Betty made chestnut hearts. The ant queen made crowned muffins. And Harry, Hedgehog and Leapy made tiny treats in the shape of hedgehogs. Everyone was ready by noon, and they all gathered in the meadow. They arrived with large plates of cakes. Dr. Owl soon appeared. They're very pretty, he hummed happily. Now all go home and come back when it's getting dark. I'll announce the most delicious cake this evening. As soon as it started to get dark, the little pals made their way to the meadow. But when they arrived, they were surprised to see that Dr. Owl was fast asleep. Berry shouted out, Dr. Owl, where are all the cakes? Have you eaten all of them? Dolly said, sounding upset. Well, maybe I tasted more cakes than I should have, he explained. And which one won? Asked Bubble. I don't know. My tummy hurts so much that I can hardly move. The others felt sorry for Dr. Owl. His tummy hurt so much that Harry Hedgehog took him home in his cart. So now what? Will the picnic be cancelled? Bubble asked sadly. Of course not, a voice shouted, and the firebug appeared in his chimney cake truck. The forest friends cheered up right away, and the sound of jolly music filled the meadow. They all stood in a circle and danced until late, and of course, they ate all the chimney cake and a few crumbs that Dr. Owl had left. The next morning, Dr. Owl woke in a grumpy mood. I'm rounder than ever, he grumbled to himself. Then there was a knock at the door. How are you, Dr. Owl? They all asked at once. Better. I'm sorry for spoiling the picnic. You didn't spoil it, Berry laughed. Come and do some exercises with us, Balthazar added. We'll all move about together and you'll soon start to feel good. Dr. Owl puffed and panted, but he did all the exercises, and it really did make him feel much better indeed.
Little kids and big kids. There were 2 football pitches next to the kindergarten. The little kids played next to the pine tree. Bubble the baby beetle was the captain, the little bark beetle was goalie, and the ant boys made up the rest of the team. The big kids played in the shade of the oak tree. Stanley the stag beetle, Balthazar the bumblebee, Eddie the potato beetle, and Berry the snail boy. The little kids played with a spotty rubber ball. The big kids had a proper football. One autumn day, Balthazar picked up the little kid's ball and he started to do tricks with it. Look at this, he teased. Give it back, it's ours, Bubble whined. I only want to show you how high I can kick it, boasted Balthazar, and he gave the rubber ball a mighty kick. He kicked it so hard that the ball burst. Now there's only one ball left. The little kids can have it in the morning and the big kids can play with it in the afternoon, the kindergarten teacher decreed. The big kids kept taking the ball from the little kids. And the little kids would steal it from the big kids. They were constantly quarrelling. Why don't you play together? Dolly asked the boys. Together? Never. The little kids are weedy and clumsy, yelled Stanley the stag beetle. And the big kids are horrid and pushy, the little ant boy shouted back. Stop being so silly. Play a match instead. Little kids versus big kids. How can 4 little kids win against 4 big kids? The bark beetle complained. All right then. Leapy and I will join in with the little kids. Then there'll be 6 of us against 4 big kids. How about that? The ladybird girl asked. Super! They all agreed. They started to play. They had so much fun that they hardly noticed the time fly by. In the end, thanks to a tricky goal from Bubble, the little kids won the match 5-4. Same again tomorrow, Balthazar said to Bubble the baby beetle. We can play a rematch. The next day they played the rematch. This time, the big kids beat Bubbles' team 4-3. The little kids aren't so clumsy after all, Stanley grumbled, and the 2 captains shook hands. A new boy came to kindergarten the day after that. The little flea brought his own stripy ball, and he let the little kids play with it. This meant that Bubbles' team went back to the pine tree and the big kids stayed on the larger pitch. They sometimes played together after that, but they did not count the goals. The Snowman. One cold winter morning, Berry the snail knocked on Dolly's front door. Let's go and play with my sledge in the snow. Dolly quickly put on her winter coat and her hat, scarf and gloves. She sat on the sledge and the little snail pulled her along. Eventually, the snow stopped. Berry and Dolly enjoyed the winter sunshine. They sledged down the steep side of the hill. Look at that super snowman, Berry shouted. Oh dear, we're going to hit it. But it was too late. The sledge ran right into the snowman that stood at the foot of the hill. Did you hurt yourself? Berry asked Dolly. No, I didn't, but I think we've ruined the snowman. Yes, it tipped right over, Berry said. I'm going to eat its carrot nose. Let's have a snowball fight with the snow from the snowman. Berry and Dolly started to throw snowballs. It was a lot of fun. Soon there was almost nothing left of the snowman. Just then, Balthazar the bee appeared and said hello to his friends. "Do you want to throw snowballs with us?"
I'm too busy. I've brought a hat and a scarf to put on my snowman I built yesterday. Haven't you seen it?
Berry and Dolly looked at each other. "Oh dear," Berry whispered. "Balthazar must be looking for the snowman we hit." They didn't dare tell Balthazar that they'd knocked his snowman over. "No, we haven't seen a snowman."
I can't find my snowman anywhere.
Berry and Dolly felt very sorry for the little bee. "Don't be sad," Berry said finally. "Let's build a new one." "Okay," Balthazar sniffled. Dolly made the biggest snowball. It went on the bottom. Balthazar made the middle one for the snowman's tummy. And Berry made the smallest snowball for the snowman's head. Then Dolly lifted Berry up so he could stick the head on top. Then the snowman was finished, and Balthazar could finally put the stripy scarf around its neck. Berry took a big jump and put the red saucepan on its head for a hat.
Hey, it looks really super,
Balthazar said enthusiastically. "Balthazar, we've got something to tell you. We smashed your first snowman. We slid right into it with our sledge. It was an accident."
What? It was you?
Balthazar was very surprised, but then he soon forgave his friends.
This snowman looks much better than the first one,
he declared.
Come on, let's sledge down the hill together.
Berry, Dolly and Balthazar played with the sledge until it got dark, and were very careful not to hit their new snowman. The Scooter. One spring morning, Morris the Maybug decided to make himself a scooter. He spent the whole day sawing, drilling and hammering, and when he was finished he painted the scooter black. Then he hurried to show his super scooter to his friends. The boys were all playing basketball in the meadow. Berry, Stanley, Balthazar, Eddie, Bubble and Alfonso. "Look at my new scooter. I made it all myself."
Can I have a try?
"No one can borrow it. It's mine."
I only want to try it for a minute.
"We'd like to have a go on it too, then we'll give it back." "I'm not lending it to anyone," Morris told them again. The boys were so busy arguing that they didn't spot Eddie, who grabbed the scooter and rode off on it. "Stop! Bring it back! It's my scooter and I didn't lend it to you. I'm not lending it to anyone." Eddie slowed down and Morris soon caught up with him. "Give me my scooter back."
Here you are, it doesn't go fast enough anyway.
"Not fast enough? Look at this." "Not fast enough? You can hardly keep up with me," he shouted with a laugh, but he didn't see a big pothole in the middle of the road.
Watch out, Morris!
Balthazar, Berry and Stanley all shouted at once, but it was too late.
Well, you've only got yourself to blame, Morris,
Balthazar said in a snooty tone. "What happened, Morris? Are you badly scratched?" "Why aren't you boys helping him?" the rose beetle asked the others. It's all Morris's fault. It doesn't matter how it happened. He's really hurt himself and you should have helped. Come back to my house, Morris, and I'll clean those nasty scratches for you. Rosita sat Morris down and washed his wounds with a warm, wet cloth. It doesn't look that bad now. Morris started to sob. It was all my fault because I was mean to the others. If I hadn't been so mean, it wouldn't have happened. Then don't be mean next time. Thank you for all your help, Morris said as he left. It was nothing. You'll feel better soon. Morris limped all the way back to his house. The minute he got home, he jumped into bed and he was soon fast asleep. The little Maybug woke up the next morning with a wonderful idea. He got out his paints and brushes. I'm going to paint you pink. Look at you. I've brought this for you. Thank you for helping me yesterday. It looks lovely. Did you paint it? Rosita asked. Yes, I thought you wouldn't like it black. I love it. I'm going to ride it over to Dolly's house. Be careful. Have a safe ride. Morris walked home and he was about to eat his lunch when he heard a knock at the door.
Hello, Morris.
Balthazar said first.
We came to see if you were feeling better.
Much better, thank you, Morris shrugged. I promise that I won't take your scooter again, Eddie said with an apologetic smile. I haven't got it anymore. I painted it pink and gave it to Rosita. But I can make a new scooter, Morris said. I promised Rosita that I won't be mean again. Everyone can have a go on my new scooter when it's finished. Hooray! Bubble shouted. Now would you all like a piece of apple pie? I baked it myself. Morris soon finished the new scooter. He painted it dark green. All the friends gathered in the meadow the next day and took turns to have a go on the two scooters. The football match. One morning, Stanley was woken by the sound of someone knocking on his door. Stanley, it's me, Frank. The little stag beetle crawled out of his bed and saw Frank the longhorn beetle. Hello there, Frank. It's super to see you, Stanley said, and the old pals hugged. I brought this for you. A football, hooray! We'll need teams to play a proper game, Frank reminded him. Then we'll tell the others to come and we'll have proper teams, the stag beetle suggested. The two boys called on all the others to come and play football with them. They visited every house, and by the time they had reached the edge of the forest, they had two teams. Alfonso agreed to be the referee. We should sew them football shirts, Rosita suggested. One team can play in blue and one team can play in red. The footballers spent the whole week training. We sewed these for you, Zephyr told them, and she handed the red and blue shirts to Stanley. Thank you, the two teams said together, and they slipped on their new football shirts. Dolly and Rosita set benches up, and the spectators all sat at the side of the pitch. Alfonso blew his referee's whistle, and the match began. That's it, run, Bubble, Stanley yelled. Here, pass it to me, Bubble shouted. Hooray! The blue team cheered as they all embraced. Come on, Reds! Come on, Blues! The crowd cheered.
That's not fair, Frank. You can't touch the ball with your hand, the b-boy complained.
Balthazar's right. Don't do it again, Frank. It's against the rules,
the referee said. The match got very exciting. The Blues were leading 3-2 when the game stopped again. Frank tripped me up, Bubble complained.
Yes, I saw that too, Alfonso agreed. I'll have to send you off if you break the rules again, Frank.
Stanley's team looked set to win. Frank started to get crosser and crosser. I'm going to score a goal now, he shouted, and he pushed Berry so hard that they ended up falling over and Frank shouted out in pain. Ouch! My arm! The others all ran over. I'll run and fetch Dr. Owl, Zephyr announced.
If you hadn't hurt yourself so badly, I'd send you off,
Alfonso said. Yes, I know, Frank said sadly, but my hand really hurts. Dr. Owl was soon at the scene.
Well, you've broken your arm.
I'll have to put it in plaster, and you'll have to keep it on for 4 weeks. You'll need to look after it and no running around. The blue team won the football match. We'll have to wait a while before we can play again, Stanley said, and he patted Frank on the back. Don't be sad, you'll soon be as fit as a fiddle again. I'm sorry that I broke the rules, Frank sniffed. I promise to play fairly when my arm has mended, and we can have another good game of football. I think we should all decorate Frank's plaster cast, Dolly said with a grin. Let's go back to my house for a snack. The big crowd of friends all piled into Dolly's spotty house. They got her crayons out and drew all kinds of funny things on the longhorn beetle's plaster. I'm going to keep it as a souvenir after Dr. Owl takes it off, Frank told them all. Then all the friends sat around the table and ate every last piece of the delicious sponge roll. The bicycle. One summer day, a pigeon delivered a parcel to Berry and Dolly. It was quite a big parcel and wrapped in pretty red paper and tied with a blue ribbon. Dolly read the note attached. It's from the centipede! Hooray! He's coming to visit us soon, and he sent us this present. To us? Berry asked. What do you mean? To me or you? It says in the letter that it's for us. It's a present for both of us, I suppose. That's silly, Berry argued. I'm sure it's meant to be for me, because I was the one who found him in the snow last Christmas. But he stayed at my house. I looked after him and made him tea, Dolly replied. But I read him caterpillar stories from the storybook, Berry added. The red wrapping paper wasn't that strong, and it soon tore open. Wheels poked out from underneath. It's a bicycle, Berry exclaimed. It's just perfect for me. No, it's just perfect for me, Dolly insisted. All right, you can have the bicycle if you want it so much. I'll be the bigger person. You're behaving like a silly baby. That upset Berry. That's not fair. I'm going to be the bigger person and you're the silly baby. You can have the bicycle. In the end, neither of them took the bicycle. They walked away and left the half-unwrapped bicycle in the meadow. Not long after that, Balthazar the bee and Flutter the butterfly came by.
What do you think it is? Is it a bicycle?
Balthazar asked. Yes, it looks like it, Flutter replied. There's a note stuck to it. It's for Berry and Dolly from the centipede.
Let's take it to them,
Balthazar suggested. They touched the bicycle and the rest of the wrapping paper fell off. This made them laugh. Look, it's a tandem. 2 people can ride it.
Let's have a go,
Balthazar said. Hello, Berry. Hello, Dolly. We brought you your bike. You left it in the meadow, Flutter shouted. Berry and Dolly came outside. They saw Flutter and Balthazar on the bicycle and felt very silly.
Oh, it's a tandem. We can both sit on it.
And we had such a fight about it. They made friends again and hugged each other happily.
What a super present. We wasted all our time quarrelling and we haven't made anything for the centipede. He could arrive at any minute, Berry said in a panic.
Let's make him a colourful windmill. We can use pretty petals, Flutter suggested. Yes, that's a great idea, Berry and Dolly agreed. The four friends gathered red, purple, white, yellow and pink petals and made a windmill. Just then, the centipede arrived in a cart pulled by a mouse. The little mouse stopped in the meadow and the centipede climbed out. He gave Berry and Dolly a big hug. I see you got my present. I hope you like it.
It's beautiful. We love it,
Berry and Dolly said. And we made you this windmill. The centipede stayed with Berry and Dolly for 10 whole days. They went for long rides on their bicycle. They talked, sang and played a lot. They had a very good time, but the happy days passed soon. I have to go home now. I've had such a super time here, the centipede said. Do come and visit us again next summer, Berry and Dolly said, as they waved goodbye to their friend. Dr. Owl gets sick. The first snow had begun to fall. Berry and Dolly sat mesmerised as they watched the white snowflakes cover all they could see. The next day, the side of the hill was blanketed in a thick layer of snow. The ladybird girl fetched her sledge, and there was enough space on it for 3. Bubble at the front, Berry in the middle, and Dolly at the back. The whole forest is white, the spider cheered. The lake soon froze over in the chilly temperatures. The little friends had lots of fun skating on the ice. Bubble, don't chew the icicles, Dolly shouted to the baby beetle, but Bubble's mind was elsewhere.
Come, let's build a snowman,
the snail boy said, but Bubble was not in a good mood.
I've got a sore throat, Berry. We'll build a snowman another time, okay?
Berry called Dr. Owl to come and take a look at Bubble. Open wide, the old owl instructed his patients. Oh, it's very red. You've got a very sore throat and you need to rest in bed for a couple of days. The little friends visited Bubble every day. Dolly even made him special tea. Flutter read Bubble stories. She put the book down when the baby beetle drifted off to sleep and carried on from the same place when he woke up again. A couple of days passed and Bubble was feeling much better.
We can build that snowman now,
Bubble said to Berry with a smile. Berry and Dolly decided to invite their friends for lunch. The guests all arrived at noon.
It's really delicious,
Balthazar enthused.
Why isn't Dr. Owl here?
I don't know, Dolly replied. Perhaps he forgot. I know why Dr. Owl didn't come today. He's not well. He caught a chill. I met his chicks and they told me.
That can't be right,
Bubble blustered.
Doctors never get sick.
Why can't doctors get sick? A mechanic's car breaks down now and again. And a cobbler gets holes in his shoes, Flutter explained to Bubble.
Let's pay him a visit and we can make him a present because it's very nearly Christmas,
Berry suggested. The 4 boys sat together and made a candle holder for Dr. Owl. They glued pieces of wood together, painted winter pictures on them, and added candles on top. "It looks lovely," Stanley said, sounding satisfied. The girls made a colourful wreath out of paper. "Dr. Owl can hang it on his front door," Leapy smiled. The next day they went to see Dr. Owl. The old owl was weak and lying in bed, but he was delighted to see his visitors. "Oh, they are beautiful," he said with a warm smile when he unwrapped his presents. By the time Christmas Day came around, Dr. Owl was feeling much better. Mama Owl put biscuits and cordial on the table, and the owl chicks got out their favourite cards. They chatted and played together for a long time. On their way home, they saw that Dr. Owl had placed the wreath on his front door, and the candles were burning brightly in his window. Stanley Skates. It was a crispy winter day and Berry and Dolly were walking by the lake. It had frozen over and was covered by a very thick layer of ice. "Come on, Dolly, let's slide on the ice," the little snail suggested. The ladybird happily agreed. Berry and Dolly stepped cautiously onto the ice. They held on tightly to each other and began to slide slowly around. They were really having a wonderful time. They soon warmed up. They fell over every now and then, but when they did, they just laughed and carried on playing. Stanley the stag beetle stood and watched them. "Stanley, you have to try this. Come and slide with us, it's so much fun," Berry said to his friend. Stanley was slightly scared but stepped onto the ice out of curiosity. "Ah!" he yelled as his feet slipped out from under him and he fell on his bottom. Berry and Dolly ran over to him. "We'll give you a hand, Stanley." The two friends stood either side of Stanley and guided him slowly forward. "Now we'll let go of you and you can try by yourself," Dolly told him. Then the snail and the ladybird let Stanley go. "Slow down, Stanley!" Dolly shouted, and Stanley tried to stop, but he stumbled and sped into a patch of prickly bushes. "Help! I'm full of prickles and my antler hurts. It hurts a lot." Dolly ran over quickly to take a look at the injured stag beetle. "Don't give up," Dolly said, and bandaged Stanley's painful antler with her dotty scarf. Just then, a beautiful girl beetle slid out onto the ice. She moved over the frozen surface of the water as gracefully as can be. "Wow, who are you?" Dolly asked. "I'm Iris the ice beetle." "Hi, Iris. She's Dolly the ladybird, he's Stanley the stag beetle, and I'm Berry the snail," Berry said in his politest voice. "How do you manage to glide on the ice like that?" Stanley asked the stranger. "Because I'm wearing ice skates, special shoes that can slide on the ice," Iris replied. "You have to buckle them to your boots." "Did you make them yourself?" Berry asked curiously. "Yes, I made them. It's really not that difficult. I can make ice skates for all of you if you like." "Hooray!" the three friends shouted excitedly. Berry, Dolly, Stanley and Iris went to the forest together. Iris sorted through the branches lying on the ground and eventually found one good for the job. They all got to work, sawing and hammering in tiny nails. Everybody did their share.
They're finished, Iris eventually announced, and there were 3 pairs of brand new ice skates sitting on the table. Berry and Dolly felt a little bit nervous as they fastened their new ice skates on, but Stanley was the most worried. Berry and Dolly held onto each other and stepped out onto the ice. Iris helped Stanley.
Sliding on the ice is so much better with ice skates,
Stanley laughed. Iris held Stanley's hand for a long time before he was happy to slide all on his own. He soon learned how to turn and start and stop.
I can do it! I can ice skate!
He announced at the end of a very long but happy day. Spring Sports Day. Berry, Dolly, Flutter and Balthazar were sitting by the lake, throwing pebbles into the water. Berry hit a floating log a couple of times, and his friends clapped.
Come down to the meadow now. The Spring Sports Day is about to start,
Stanley told them all. Their forest friends had already gathered in the meadow. The little beetles all put their running shorts on and stood in line. They all ran as fast as they could. They had to run 3 times around the meadow.
It's not fair! Eddie cheated! He cut the corner!
Leapy the grasshopper shouted.
There's to be no cheating. Let's start the competition again, but no cheating.
Stanley came first, Leapy came second, and Balthazar came third. Berry finished last. Balthazar and Eddie started whispering.
He's as slow as his snail.
Don't make fun of him. It's not nice, Dolly said angrily.
Now it's time for the high jump. The one who can pick the highest apple is the winner,
Alfonso said. The friends took a run and tried to jump as high as possible. Leapy got the highest apple, Flutter got the second one, and Eddie the potato beetle grabbed the third apple. No matter how hard Berry tried, he couldn't even reach the lowest apple. I can't do it. I just can't do it, he sulked. Come on, Berry. You'll be better at the next race. Don't be sad, Rosita said. But Berry was too nervous to join the rolling race because he was frightened he'd crack his shell. The others all lined up and rolled from one end of the meadow to the other. Dolly was the fastest and she won.
Now let's start flying, Alfonso said. The fastest to fly to the top of this tree and get a pine cone from there is the winner.
The beetles started immediately. Flutter, Balthazar, Dolly and Zephyr all joined the race. Flutter was the fastest and got to the top of the tree first. I can't fly either, Berry snivelled. Don't be so angry, Berry. It's time for the skipping competition now. The fastest skipper wins. The 4 contestants started skipping. But suddenly, Berry got tangled in the rope and hurt himself. The others were worried and ran over to him. I'm not doing any more silly races. I can't do anything. I'm going home. We have to think of something. We have to cheer Berry up, Dolly said. You're right. What's he really good at? Rosita asked. I know, Flutter shouted. Throwing.
That's a super idea,
Balthazar agreed.
Berry was the only one who could hit the log in the lake.
They made 5 piles. The first one was made out of apples, the second of horse chestnuts, the third of pine cones, the fourth out of hazelnuts, and the 5th one out of pears. Dolly convinced Berry to come back to the meadow. It's time for the throwing competition. Do you want to join in? Rosita asked. Hooray! Throwing! Of course I'm in. Everybody had a go, but Berry was the best. He was the only one who managed to knock over all 5 piles.
You see, Berry, I'm the best runner, Leapy's the best high jumper, Flutter's the best at flying, Dolly at rolling, Rosita can skip the fastest, and you're the best thrower. Everybody's good at something,
Stanley explained. Berry got a beautiful shiny chestnut engraved by Alfonso, which said throwing, first place.